Powhatan, Richmond, both asking for a 1% increase in sales tax. Why? Their school districts are going to be short of funds. I thought the $1.2 billion that Louise Lucas held up this budget for was going to have a lot for school districts. Apparently not as much as we thought. Which brings me back to my new little song. Can you get me the dramatic version of that, Dave? My new little song. Because I think the moment is here that we have to admit that in a few short moments, this state is hurtled towards becoming the East Coast version of California under this General Assembly and this governor.
Welcome to Virginia, California, where Richmond dreams and Sacramento style.
I'm telling you, folks, I've been saying this since I've been here, that we have, that we're going to become California before our very eyes, and this is a perfect example. This budget is a perfect example. So let me run through this for you. And again, if you want to comment, James River Air text line 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140 is the number for you to join us in the James River Air text line. So this budget battle between Louise Lucas, Don Scott, Abigail Spanberger, there are people working in the General Assembly in Capitol Square that write these budgets, put all these together. And just like the gun laws that they help craft, which are so bad right now, we'll talk about that with someone a little bit later on, how these are getting injunctions put up immediately. That tells you how bad these laws are. They're either written poorly or they're written poorly on purpose. Either way, it's not good for the Commonwealth. Same thing with this budget. So I'm going to get to the pot stores in just a second, but here's what you need to know. Richmond, Powhatan, other municipalities will now be able to put a 1% sales tax referendum out very quickly. Doesn't have to go to the General Assembly, doesn't have to have any consideration. It's going to get there quicker. It's just an easier way to raise your taxes because of a couple things. And I'm going to give you two big reasons right now why Richmond more than likely is going to raise their sales tax by 1%. This budget fiasco that I was worried about whether we're going to have a government shutdown has ripple effects and waves that have affected your daily life. This goes straight to the governor's mansion. Scott and Lucas need to be held accountable for this. RPS, Richmond Public Schools, we're counting on, and I'll get to them in just a second because they're not free and clear on this either. They were counting on a budget in a timely manner so they can adjust their budgets up or down. Well, actually adjust them up. I'm not sure anybody ever adjusts budgets down in government. They were waiting for the state budget so they can fund their budget. Now, they assumed something, and like I said, we'll get to that in just a second. But because of the shenanigans and the nonsense and the caterwauling and Louise Lucas's grandstanding, our budget came down to the very last moment. And with the lack of leadership that we had out of the governor's office and out of the General Assembly, we went down to the very bitter wire. In fact, the governor threw out extra amendments. We signed this budget with just a day to go. So, yay, we've got a budget, but nobody actually looked to see what's in it. But the one ramification is you didn't give notice to the school districts who were counting on a certain amount of money. It's not there. You didn't give them a chance to change their budgets or make amendments because you waited so long with your grandstanding over data centers, which really turned out to be 200 pages of our 600-page budget dealing with marijuana. Your ineptness in Capitol Square causes real-term effects to this Commonwealth, to these children, to our school districts and our communities. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no two ways about it because you took so long to get this budget done. Now, the communities around Virginia, Richmond, Powhatan, just the first, there'll be many more, have to scramble to find budgets because you took so long to get the Commonwealth's budget done because you're messing around with data centers and whether we're going to have legalized marijuana retail stores this year. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great job. Way to do your job. Then we go back to, well, you have to pass the budget to see what's in the budget. Because I guarantee by the time you got the final budget together, I doubt if many people read all 600 pages. Now, for the school districts that are wanting to raise their budgets, how do you just assume you're going to get $20 million? How do you assume that's what your budget's going to be? I can't run my household like that. Hey, honey, I think next month I'm going to assume we're going to get another $20,000. Do you know we're going to get $20,000 extra? I don't know, but I'm just going to assume that. Well, do you know where it's going to come from? I don't know, but I'm just going to assume that, and I'm going to plan on all of that accordingly. Nobody does that in real life except government. Then we find out, well, we're going to have to cut back some things. Like what? When we have work development days feeding everybody. You mean bringing in lunch for teachers when they have development days? Yeah. I'll tell you this. I spent 30 years in broadcasting and marketing, and corporate sales. I could probably count on both hands, maybe just one hand, the amount of times I actually went to a meeting where they brought us lunch, where they catered a lunch for us. Very rarely does that happen in the real world, but apparently that's what happens at the school district. There's all kinds of other things. Richmond Times-Dispatch has all the things they're going to have to cut back. I want to make sure I quote this properly, because I looked at it, I'm like, okay, wait a second. Where are your priorities? What are you talking about? And I just didn't want to go off on my own. So let me find these for you, where they talked about, well, we're not going to be able to provide lunch for some of our teachers when we have these development things. Wait a minute. Everybody gets lunch. I don't get lunch. I rarely get lunch brought to me. My boss will take me to lunch every once in a while. I'll take people to lunch every while, but I don't get that on a regular basis. There are a lot of things in there. I'm like, well, wait a second. Yeah, if you're $9 million short, you've got to tighten your belt. But instead, they're like, can we have Airbnb money and can we have a 1% increase on sales tax? No. How about tightening your belt like everybody else? Seems like the right thing to do. Now, here's what I also want to bring up to you. Because this budget was pass it and then we'll figure out what's in it. The big thing, and again, you heard this on this program before anybody else talked about it. That's why, again, here's a perfect example. When we say, wake up with Richmond's Morning News or play catch up all day. If you're just hearing this for the first time, that means you weren't listening to us earlier in the week. The retail marijuana market that the governor touted and she signed off on, and it was a big fight in this budget. They just didn't tell us because there was absolutely no transparency when this budget was being put together. Well, here's what's going on now. An email went out from the Virginia State Police, and it basically said that if you catch somebody and you arrest them with under 5 pounds of marijuana, there's nothing we're going to do. If it's over 5 pounds of marijuana, contact the DEA and see if they want to take this case. Why? Because Commonwealth's attorneys, the service that kind of gives them the guidance on the law, has no idea what to do with our marijuana laws. The Virginia State Police have no idea what we're going to enforce and what we're not going to enforce. Why? Tim Anderson, if you find him on X, put out a video and he gives screenshots of the budget. We have marijuana laws on the board that on the books that say, you can't just open up a store on the corner and sell marijuana. Well, now we're going to have this retail marijuana marketplace put together courtesy of this governor and of this General Assembly. Well, that flies in the face of the marijuana laws we have on the books, so you can't have conflicting laws. So in this budget, and again, I'm begging somebody to explain how this should go through the budgetary process and not bills where we get a chance to look at them. But they did it anyway. This is what happens when you have one party rule and they're ruled by liberal Democrats. This is what you get. This is what you voted for. This is why, folks, if you want to look at the beginning of the California taking over Virginia, this is where we become Virginia-fornia.
1 minute.
they wrote the law to dilute the marijuana laws we have in the books now, because that way you can have the new marijuana laws where we have retail pot shops throughout the Commonwealth. So it's either a clerical mistake or somebody did this, but the laws we have in the books are diluted as of now on July 1st, 2026. The new laws that will replace these old laws don't take effect until 2027. So right now, this Commonwealth is in limbo for 1 year, 365 days, with really no guidance and no ability to charge anybody, arrest anybody on marijuana laws. I'll repeat that. The laws we have in the books right now need to be diluted in order to have retail marijuana shops. Those laws were diluted on July 1st, 2026, according to this budget. This is according to Tim Anderson, member of the House of Delegates, and he showed the screenshots to it. He has the receipts. The new laws won't take effect till 2027. So right now we are sitting in limbo for 1 year where nobody knows what laws are on the books, what laws can be enforced, what can be used to arrest somebody, what cannot be used to arrest somebody. We're basically in limbo. It's anarchy when it comes to marijuana laws, thanks to the governor and this General Assembly. The beginning of the Virginia turning into California has come to fruition today. You want to comment? 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140. Welcome to Virginia, California. We'll continue with you. It's News Radio WRVA. It's absolutely maddening.